Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Inland Northwest Sports Talk. I'm Joey Jenkins, and on today's Friday episode, of course, we're talking about the Moscow Bears and their big game tonight against Clarkston. That one is just about ready to kick off in a few hours over on AM 1400 ESPN Radio, also on listentothegame.com. So we'll give you a preview of what to look forward to tonight for the big game for Moscow. But first, to give you a quick recap in case you missed it, both the Vandals and the Cougs had their opening games yesterday, and they took on two tough losses, both for the Vandals and WSU Cougars. The Vandals had their home opener against Eastern Washington University, ended up losing that one 3-20, and then the Cougars went over to Provo to play BYU and lost that one 6-30. So only 9 combined points for both the WSU Cougars and the Idaho Vandals. So remember, we have the Vandals for you on Z-Fun 106 over on the FM side of things. And then also we have the WSU Cougars on AM 1450 KCLX. So you can always check out all the games. Also, we have the coaches' shows on Tuesday night. So we hope better things for both the Cougars and the Vandals. But right now it's all about the Moscow Bears. And they are 0-1 coming into tonight's game as they'll take on Clarkston down in Clarkston. So they open up with those two games now on the road. And the Moscow Bears coming off that tough loss last week against Grangeville. Of course, the Grangeville Bulldogs, the defending 2A state champs. And now Moscow looks to redeem themselves coming up tonight. So let's give you a little bit of a preview of what to expect. Of course, kickoff will be at 7 o'clock p.m. We'll have the pregame for you at 6:45. You can hear it on AM 1400, ESPN Radio. I'll be there. And we also have it on listentothegame.com. So two ways for you to listen to the game tonight. And really, as we look at Clarkston and Moscow matchup tonight, let's take a look at last year. And really, Moscow handled Clarkston. They won 21-13 last year. But we've realized a lot of things have changed from the Bear team last year to this year, and the same with Clarkston. So even though with that last year record of 1-0 for the Bears, it's really a whole new ball game as they'll come into this one against Clarkston. Looking at some numbers here, and by the numbers, I crunched some numbers from last year for Clarkston and for Moscow, and they're looking almost identical. Check this out. Clarkston averaged 19.4 points per game and allowed only 23.3 points per game. Moscow, the same average, they scored an average of 19 points per game and they allowed 23.6 points per game. So we're just talking about 0.3 point differential for the Bears and Clarkston. So really, on paper, from last year's stats, these teams look very evenly matched, and I think really it comes down to what we talked with head coach Phil Helbling yesterday. You can hear that full interview on the pregame show tonight, but head coach Phil Helbling of the Moscow Bears talked about effort, and the effort has to be taken up a notch, so to say, for Moscow, and I think that'll be big. Another road game for them to begin the season, but they can look at the experience against Grangeville as a stepping stone rather than a stumbling block. And one of the things, a couple of things that head coach Phil Helbling mentioned, he talked about their running game was improved, which struggled in last week's game against Grangeville, and then also their effort has improved. So I expect a good one tonight. It's going to be close, I think, looking at Moscow's performance and looking at how they'll step up. I think they will step up in this game. I think you're not going to see the same performance that you did from the Bears last week. I expect Moscow to look good, and I expect them to continue to run the ball. I know the run wasn't really working against Grangeville last week, but talking with Coach Helbling last night, and then also, again, you can hear that interview coming up later on in the pregame show, but he talked about continuing to run the ball. They improved that, and they improve the effort. So it should be a good one. Tune in at 6:45 p.m. on AM 1400, ESPN Radio, and also you can catch it on listentothegame.com. I'll be there. We'll see you later on tonight for the Moscow Bears taking on Clarkston.